Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. It is Monday, November 8th, November 11th, November 7th, the year of our Lord 2022. Time flies, don't it? And I'm here to talk. We're going to talk about the American Rescue Plan again and the cash apps and clarify it a little bit. They haven't really come out yet, but that's what's going to happen. And so, won't you join us? I do want to talk a little bit about this last week because I've had a pretty busy week. I was out at the Chevy Chase Golf Course with WLS AM 890, welcoming Chris Plant. I sponsored the event, had an opportunity to address the crowd. It was a great time. I had a great time Thursday. And then on Saturday, the AM 560, The Answer, I was also a sponsor on that event. And that's an all-day Freedom Summit. Every year they have it. It's just a lot of fun. If you haven't been there, you should really go there. Larry Elder was the keynote speaker this year. I did a breakout session about what patriots need to know about taxes and the armed IRS. I had a great time. Had over 100 people in the audience. It was a lot of fun. If you have been out to the Freedom Summit, you should go out to the Freedom Summit. It's a lot of fun. A lot of like-minded people. So again, as I mentioned, all-day event, and you'll really enjoy yourself. If you enjoy this show, you will enjoy that show. So go out next year, take a look at it. All of these events for whatever the radio station is, these are always great events to get out and be with like-minded people and meet new friends. I always meet new friends, and so I encourage you to do that. Now, today we're going to talk a little bit about the cash apps. Remember the 1099Ks? We talked a lot about it over the year. It passed in March of 2021, so it's been some time now. But it really just went into effect in January 1st of 2022. But you won't see anything. It won't make a difference to you until February 2023. I think that's a plan, so it didn't happen before tax time or before this election tomorrow. And so, it won't affect them. But I got to tell you, you come in February, you're going to get some tax forms you don't really understand and that you may cause you angst. Or maybe you don't get it, but they send it to the IRS. This is not uncommon with 1099s. People get 1099-Cs, 1099-Ks, 1099-Bs. There's a whole list of 1099 forms now, about 20 of them. These are called information reports, information returns, and they're sent out to inform the IRS about what's going on in your financial life. They don't want you to get $1 without them knowing about it and then taxing you on it. Now, the reporting doesn't mean that you have to pay tax on a lot of things, and that's always the response with the IRS. We're not changing any taxes, and that's true. It doesn't change the taxes, but you're going to change the way you have to report it, and it's going to put the onus on you to prove it's not taxable, and that's going to be sometimes very difficult. Okay, so let's go to the story. Here we go. Let's go to the story. Here it is. Small businesses find a loophole in new tax law, Zelle. Now, we did this. I've talked about Zelle, and I mentioned that I hadn't found anything definitive that they were exempt from this law, although I did report that I thought it probably would be, given that they're not really a third-party transaction app, right? They're a bank-to-bank app. So where PayPal gathers your money and then pays it out to somebody else, Zelle does not do that. They just connect bank to bank. So if I'm paying you, they don't get it. They never touch the money. So they don't report it to the IRS. And that's what this story is about. And this is a definitive. Now, having said it's definitive, I think the IRS is going to make a change. I think they're going to try to make them report it. My own opinion. The payment service says it doesn't have to disclose transactions to the IRS, but its users are still subject to the rules. What do they mean by that is the rules are you have to pay tax on any income. That's the 16th Amendment, right? You have to pay tax on all income from whatever source derived, right? So that doesn't change. Earlier this year, Benson, owner of a Houston appliance reseller Vend app, noticed that his suppliers were no longer accepting payments through Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App. They just say, I prefer Zelle. He says the share of his suppliers using Zelle jumped to 60% from 15% in just a few weeks. A couple of them talked about why. It's because at the end of the day, with Zelle or cash, they decide what to show the IRS. He's referring to the IRS rule change that came into effect on January 1st, 2022, requiring third-party payment processors such as Venmo or PayPal to issue 1099-K forms to any users who receive more than $600 in payments via their apps and also file them directly with the IRS. Previously, Venmo and other apps issued 1099-Ks only for customers with gross payments exceeding $20,000 who'd made more than 200 such transactions. Now, that kind of makes sense. But small businesses nationwide have found a loophole. Zelle says the new rule doesn't apply to them, a bank-to-bank payment service, because it's a network that doesn't hold funds. His company continues to accept payments in half dozen forms, most often Venmo, Cash App, or Zelle, like many businesses that were already documented all their income from the IRS. But gig workers and small business owners, especially those just scraping by, are alarmed by the new law. A lot of people think they're just doing a side gig or are small potatoes. So why should they pay taxes? A senior fellow at the Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center. An IRS analysis of 14 through 16 estimated that unreported individual and small business activities cost $144 billion in taxes a year, and found that Americans report less than half of the income that isn't automatically reported for them. Rosenthal suspects this is a drastic underestimate. I think the level of noncompliance for small businesses is staggering, he says. Yeah, I want to put a knife in your back, right? Although Zelle offers a core service, I have to disagree with the gentleman. I think most people report because they're afraid of the IRS. Although Zelle offers a core service similar to those of PayPal, Cash App, Google Pay, and other competitors, it was really originally built as a clear exchange, a peer-to-peer payment service for a consortium of major banks. Today, it's integrated into users' bank dashboards and run by Early Warning Services, LLC, which is jointly owned by 7 banks. The service is an electronic network that manages automated clearinghouse transactions. ACH networks are not subject to 1099 reporting, says Wendy Walker, chair of the Information Reporting Subgroup of the IRS Advisory Council. A competitor, Chuck, which launched in January, is a similar bank-to-bank network. Read more. The IRS is coming for your Venmo income. A Zelle spokesman said in an email that payments sent, I guess that's a different letter. Maybe that's just a link. Let me see if that's a link. That is a link. I'm not gonna read that though. A Zelle spokesman said in an email that payments sent through this network are not subject to this law. Small business banking users turn to Zelle because it makes it easier to complete digital payments where they bank, enabling easier bookkeeping and accounting by having an SMB's data at one source, she said, adding that they see a benefit in having money in their bank accounts, not held by third parties. A spokeswoman said Zelle couldn't speculate on other reasons people might use its service and declined to provide 2022 data on user figures. Well, why would they? Rosenthal suggests exercising caution before jumping over to Zelle, pointing to the IRS's push to harness technology to enforce long-dodged tax laws. It's a dangerous game for tax cheats to migrate to Zelle, he says. It wouldn't be hard for the IRS to unravel that. He sees 2 likely outcomes if people continue abandoning payment services that issue 1099-K forms in favor of Zelle. Congress could extend the law to include Zelle, or the IRS could investigate, perhaps seeking customer names from Zelle like for heightened auditing security. Now, this happened with cryptocurrency. that the IRS. I have reported on this that the IRS had subpoenaed bank records or records of clients so they could know who was using the service. And even though that those services weren't required to report, once they got a subpoena, now they are required to report. And there's many courts that will step in line and help the IRS get that information. You know, this was what happened to Swiss bank accounts that used to not report to the IRS. And the United States government said, if you don't, we're going to come down hard and we're not going to do any trade with you. And so now they all report to the IRS. Every one of these banks, foreign banks, domestic banks, they all report to the IRS. And this is what this is information reporting. That's why the IRS wants everyone to report all of their bank accounts. That's next. Now, maybe tomorrow's election will stall it or stop it forever. I hope that's true. But you never know. They've been pushing for this for a long time. They pushed for this transaction reporting for a long time. And I don't see it stopping here, especially with the administration that's in place now and the IRS that's looking to collect as much money as they can. Accountants are professionally obligated to follow the tax code and continue to invite taxpayers to join them in compliance. I always advise that it's your responsibility to report all income earned from all platforms, even with companies like Zelle. Well, of course it is. He says his clients often employ the wishful thinking that they only need to report income that appears on a 1099 or W-2 form. That's not the case, he says. It's up to the individual to report all of their income. Well, that's true. And again, just because of this reporting, it doesn't really stop it. This is a way for the IRS to catch you and know what you're getting and then come after you for it. So that's the purpose of these information returns. And that's why I don't think it's going to change very much. So I went to Zelle. Here's Zelle. Frequently asked questions from Zelle. Does Zelle report how much money I received to the IRS? This frequently asked questions, FAQ, are for informational purposes only and only relate to Zelle Network. Zelle does not provide tax advice. If you have any questions about your individual situation, please consult a tax or a legal professional. Does Zelle report how much money I received to the IRS? Zelle does not report transactions made on the Zelle network to IRS. The law requiring certain payment networks to provide Forms 1099-K for information reporting does not apply to the Zelle network. Does Zelle tax me on the money that I receive? Zelle is a payment platform. Zelle does not impose taxes on transactions made in its network. If payments you receive on the Zelle network are taxable, it is your responsibility to report them to the IRS. If you have any questions about your tax obligations, please consult with a tax professional. Will Zelle send me a 1099-K form? Zelle does not issue 1099-K forms for payments made on the Zelle network. Does Zelle report any payments I receive over $600 to the IRS? Zelle does not report any transactions made to Zelle Network to the IRS, even if the total is more than $600. The law requiring certain payment networks to provide Forms 1099-K for information reporting does not apply to the Zelle Network. If payments you receive on the Zelle Network are taxable, it is your responsibility to report them to the IRS. If you have any questions about your tax obligations, please consult with a tax professional. I have a small business account. Will Zelle report how much money I receive to the IRS? Eligible small businesses can use Zelle to send and receive money. Zelle does not report transactions made on the Zelle network to the IRS, including payments made for the sale of goods and services. The law requiring certain payment networks to provide Forms 1099-K for information reporting on the sale of goods and services does not apply to the Zelle network. If payments you receive on the Zelle network are taxable, it is your responsibility to report them to the IRS. If you have any questions about your tax obligations, please consult a tax professional. I wish they would be more clear. Do they issue 1099-Ks? It's a joke. Obviously, they said it 10 times in there. We do not report on to 1099-K forms to the IRS. Clear. It is the question's been asked and answered. Again, I think when it first came out, Zelle took the position that they didn't, but many tax professionals took the position and said, yes, they are going to be required to. And so now there is definitive proof. Again, it doesn't mean it's not going to change. My own opinion is the IRS is trying everything to go after everybody. And so Zelle is one of the everybody's. And so I believe that probably is going to happen. That the IRS is, if you think you can easily just skirt the rules by going to Zelle, I say the IRS stops you from skirting the rules and starts requiring Zelle to respond. One of the problems is that you don't really have an account with Zelle, right? I guess you do because you're setting up your bank account. They can make it happen, and I think that they probably will. Okay, that's my own opinion. But as we sit here today, the answer is no, Zelle won't. I think that next year when everyone starts getting these 1099Ks and doesn't know what to do with it, and then they start increasing your tax preparation costs because if you don't understand it, you won't be able to do it yourself. And that means you have to hire somebody. And if you have to hire someone, it's going to cost you more. And if it costs you more, you're going to be angry. And if you're angry, you're going to tell your congressman. And if your congressman gets a lot of angry calls, they'll stop it. So and this has happened before with many things. And so I think that by next year, when everybody starts getting these 1099Ks and their representatives get an earful, I think it'll be changed. They'll probably go back to the $20,000 or more and 200 transactions. That seemed reasonable to me because that's an indication that you're in business. But getting $600 on a Zelle or on a Venmo or on PayPal is not an indication that you're in business. I think it's in a position that's not logical, right? It just doesn't tie to what the IRS's job is, and so I think it should be stopped. My own opinion, and I've seen it happen before where the public has to comply. They don't like the complying, and they argue to their representatives, and their representatives change it. They're the ones that put it in. They can certainly change it. I don't see, especially if we have a change tomorrow on Tuesday with the election and the Republicans take over. I can think that this will be one of the first things that they can do. They can make it retroactive, right? They could change it. No, because they won't come in until January, right? And so this will go until February. And I don't see the lame duck session of the Congress, if it's changing hands, to put this as a priority. I just don't see it. But afterwards, maybe for 2023, we can all lobby our Congress people and get it changed. I hope that's true. So thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time. As you know, I always ask you to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. I need your help to get this information out. And so please like and subscribe. And also, if you have a tax problem, if you owe the IRS money, get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. I pay for the printing, and I ask you to pay for the shipping and handling, a small shipping and handling fee. So go to freeirsbook.com and get your copy of Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. And remember, I pay for the printing, and all the free bonuses that come with it. So please go and get your copy. So thanks so much for joining us here today. I hope we cleared that up for you if you had that question. And we'll see you back here again tomorrow. Thanks so much.